What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Patros Podcast, where we're embracing healthy masculinity. So in the month of June, we are highlighting fatherhood. And so we have an extremely special guest for this topic, an awesome guest, some would say. Jeff, who do we have today?
Awesome is a really great way to frame it up. We've got Jeff Zaugg with us, who is the CEO. Is that how? Executive director, founder, all the above of Dead Awesome?
We just say chief, cheerleader, lead cheerleader is kind of what we say.
Lead cheerleader, and everything else in between for Dad Awesome, which is given that this month is about dads, we had to have on Dad Awesome, because how can you not have that? And actually, Jeff, we go to your website, like everybody is awesome something. They're awesomeness of this and awesomeness of that. And what's great, and I'll let you tell your story in a bit, Jeff, but when I initially heard the ministry, I was like, Dad Awesome. I'm like, that's an interesting name, you know? And then I went on the website and I looked around, I'm like, well, everything's awesome. I'm like, surely not everything is awesome. And then I met Jeff and I realized, no, everything is awesome with Jeff. Just his energy, his enthusiasm for life and for all things fatherhood, for all things about God, and just pouring into other men, pouring into his family. Mm-hmm. So for the Patros listeners that are on today, man, we're in for a treat. So Jeff, man, we'd love for you to share a little bit about yourself, man. Who's Jeff Zaugg?
Yeah, thank you guys. And first, just gratitude that you guys want to chat, and gratitude for your hearts both. You know, you love the same things I love. I just count it a gift that I get to be a dad. Definitely an imperfect dad. We joke about dude perfect. We're not trying to be dad perfect. That's not it at all. In fact, Dad Awesome is often we're falling down, but we have on our hearts the turning of hearts of dads to kids, treasure the role of fatherhood. And when we do that, often then we turn other dials of intentionality. And so I'm thankful. Another thing we say at Dad Awesome is, we're about activating dads. So we want to have a bias towards action. We want to be dads that take action, that grow, that learn, that don't stop pursuing their families. A bias towards action, but we say activating dads to lead with wonder. And that's, so, you mentioned, Jeff, that everything is awesome. And that, it's a fun play on that word, but wonder is a choice. Joy is a choice. It's not everything's happy, everything's perfect, but wonder, we actually, our eyes can shine even in the valley moments because of, our hope in our Heavenly Father. So there we go. There's just a quick fly into, your little side door into awesome, Dad Awesome. So I'm grateful. I'm from the upper Midwest, moved to Florida a year and a half ago. So I'm now in Northeast Florida. I have my wife and I are celebrating 19 years of marriage here this summer. Wow. So she is mom awesome. And the ministry, we're 7.5 years into this adventure of Dad Awesome discoveries. We're learning, we're just making discoveries and then trying to bring those, new tools to the dads who listen to our podcast and are part of our ministry. But we're from the upper Midwest. Our family grew since starting Dad Awesome. We now have 4 daughters. So we had 2 daughters when the ministry started, and now 4 little girls. Age 11 down to age 4. And tonight, as we're recording, they are looking like, I'm so distracted because they are all in dance and doing a dance kind of theater production deal. And it's just so distracting as they're getting ready for this dance performance. They're coming in and out of, I'm in our bedroom right now, and it's fun. So hopefully we'll be interrupted at some point with one of my little dancers coming through. So that's kind of our chapter of life and where we're at, and a little bit about the ministry.
I love it. This is going to be such a fun conversation. And if you're joining us for the first time on the Patros Podcast, Patros is Greek for father. So obviously in June, we've got to own Fatherhood Month, right, Jeff? Like that's our month.
That's it. And you guys know this. The least attended Sunday of the year statistically is Father's Day, because when dads are given the choice to go to do a barbecue or go boating or do whatever, or go to church, versus Mother's Day statistically is the 3rd highest. Christmas, Easter, Mother's Day. And so our prayer is that we turn that. Like we believe that through, Man Up, through the different initiatives you guys are leading, through our, so many friends now, so many amazing people are championing this cause, that Father's Day will be, one of the most celebrated, highest attended. The local church will celebrate dads, not shame dads. The local church will. It'll be the catalyst of a year of being dad awesome, being men who step up. So yeah, I get a little fiery around Father's Day.
Hey, listen, it's the right crowd. We're getting fiery around it as well, because we know, I mean, that the statistics are all there. That this is not a secret anymore. I mean, I think there are still some circles that the word is getting out, but more and more and more people are realizing, and people in high levels, the Health and Human Services, like in our federal government, is even recognizing it. You've got the state of Florida is very friendly towards fatherhood. I was just on a call with the state of Oklahoma, the governor's office in the state of Oklahoma. They were like, how do we get dads engaged? How do we increase fatherhood engagement as a state, on a state level? And I'm happy to share, this is how we're going to do it. But really how we're going to do it is, there are ministries and individual men and churches we're going to elevate this topic. So to your point about June, we've got to own this month. We've got to raise the optic on it. And so that's part of the reason we're doing this series. Yeah. And we thought, I want to talk more about your story, but just to kind of give people a preview of what to expect. We're going to be talking about a couple of things. One, we asked you to kind of talk about passivity. Like, how do we overcome that? It's one of the biggest things. Parents, I see so many parents being friends and not parents, right? And so we want to talk about, how do we overcome that? And then focused attention with all the technology and all the distractions. And we have more distractions than ever. How can we give focused attention to our kids? And finally, if we can get into it a little bit on AI and technology, and where's the future of fatherhood. So those are things you can expect on the show today. So we're excited to get your expertise. But man, why don't you share a little bit about how we met? Yeah. And it's just such a cool story.
Yeah, the backdrop, go back 7.5 years ago, a little experiment called Dad Awesome. Tried to record 10 episodes to help some friends of mine. It was just to help us. And that cascaded to now, we're coming up on 390 weekly episodes of Dad Awesome. So I've just stuck with it. I'm a golden retriever. There's no arrival. It's just, you stick with things. When you stick with something, the compounded, for me, it's made my girls know more than ever that I love being their dad. But it's also led to a lot of friendships. When you reach to someone and say, hey, would you give me 45 minutes of your time to talk, be a guest on the podcast, someone who's maybe they're an author of a book, or they're a leader of a church or a ministry, or they've never been on a podcast before because they're just an intentional dad that haven't been discovered yet. And I get the joy of discovering them and sharing their story with hundreds or thousands. So Dad Awesome has, gone from podcast into, we did 30 activation events around the country, 100-mile bike rides, Spartan races, triathlons, did a half Ironman, where we activate men to do hard things as a team. And then we partner with a mission that's at the center of God's heart. So the mission was called Fathers for the Fatherless. And we raised money for partner organizations that directly serve the fatherless. So all of this has cascaded into friendships. More friendships. Yeah. And these friendships are other ministries like Jeff here, who lead Fatherhood Ministries. And we said, we have to get together. So we did an event in Colorado 3 years ago. And then last summer, Jeff and I met with a team there was like 12 of us who met in Washington, D.C. that Mark Batterson hosted. And it was truly, what a gift to spend 3 days with ministers, leaders of ministries who care about the same mission, who are the opposite of competitors. We're like, whatever we can do to help your mission and your mission. I want to celebrate your mission. I don't even want to talk about myself. I just want to learn and celebrate. And so it was pretty special. 3 days in DC, in the Capitol, on Father's Day week, in a building that's very significant about the gateway to Washington, DC. This building was in view of the main entry point to the nation's capital. And it's called the Capitol Turnaround. And we're praying through the Malachi mandate about the hearts of fathers turning. It's the hearts of kids turning. It was a crazy moment of us being like, this is significant. So yeah, that was fun that we got to meet in such a moment that I'll never forget.
Well, it was so cool, Allan, because I didn't know Jeff, and Mark Batterson was introduced to me through Chris Sprouse, former Speaker of the House, state of Florida. Yeah. And then Batterson was like, hey, do you know Jeff Zaugg? I'm like, no, who's Jeff Zaugg? And so next thing I know, we're all hanging out together. And it was just this awesome, God ordained moment, really. But to see, to your point, I think this is what man, I wish the church would understand. I would the other ministries would understand. We all run in similar lanes, but we're all reaching a different audience and we're doing a little different thing. And we were supporting one another in this. I mean, you heard him talk about activation. We talk about mobilization. Different word, but kind of like going after the same heart. We talk about breaking a cycle. He's talking about leading with wonder. So it's like, the different messages are ultimately trying to accomplish the same thing, but it reaches different people in different ways. And so to be supportive of all that, I loved your leadership in that too. You did a phenomenal job of leading those groups. What led you to be so passionate about this topic, about being a dad awesome, being like, and then in caring for the fatherless and like just that whole sphere, like what's the motivation?
Yeah, I was a business guy turned pastor accidentally, like resisted and just like so clear. God's like, this role is for you. And then a campus pastor, groups pastor turned kids pastor. And that was also like not a part of my up and to the right trajectory game planning. Now, in hindsight, I love kids pastors, family pastors, people who serve kids, but it just wasn't, I had no experience in that area, and our church needed me to fill that role. Very quickly in leading family ministry, I learned we're doing nothing as a church to help the dads.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started a little that side project, a little side passion project called Dad Awesome. I stumbled in from a place of there was great need, but I also knew as a dad of at this point a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old, my 2 little girls, I knew that in the areas of intentionality, I was not reading books, listening to podcasts, going to small groups, online coaching, conferences, any of the things, the dials of intentionality around leadership or marriage or other spheres, personal finance. I've turned those dials of inputs. Really, it's what am I learning?
Yeah.
Nothing for fatherhood. I was just really accidentally being a fun dad who enjoyed being a dad, but I wasn't turning dials of connection, intentionality. So I was like, I need this. And then as I started sharing with these friends, I realized, oh, you know what? Part of what exists is the way I show up as a dad is anchored back to my own dad, anchored back to my father-in-law. And I realized, oh, there's a lot more here. And then the flywheel starts to turn.
Yeah.
And I realized, 1 year into Dad Awesome, do I feel more Dad Awesome or actually less? More, we talk about Dad Average, Dad Angry, Dad Annoyed, Dad Absent, Dad. There's all the DAs, and truly, it's not a rival, but it's I am more passionate about my need to press in and more passionate about like there are dads waiting to be invited to take a different trail, they're on this mountain and there's a different trail here, and it's treasuring fatherhood. So that's a little bit of why my heart and why my passion.
Yeah, love that. Let's stay on that a little bit and talk about, because you kind of are mentioning a little bit of the topic we want to chat about today, which is passivity in our homes. Because without intentionality, I think you're exactly right, and it's kind of a buzzword, intentionality, but it's so important. Let's talk a little bit about the modern challenges. Like, what are the challenges that you see? I mean, you go all over the country, man. You've taken your podcast out west and up north and down south and all over the place and interviewing 300 plus dads along the way. Like, what are those shifts? I guess, what are those sticking points? And then what are the shifts that can help us push past passivity when it comes to our being dad awesome?
Yeah, I'm always grateful to talk about this topic because I struggle with this topic, right? It's truly, if I just take the dial of intentionality and say, I want to be more intentional, I want to be less passive. Let's turn down the passivity dial. Let's turn up the intentionality. It lasts for a little while, and then I pendulum swing right back to where I was. Yeah. So as an individual dad, I will not be successful with just my wife cheering me on. I only find stickiness and actual progress and up, like I'm taking new ground and I'm holding that ground with brotherhood. So
Wow.
truly, it's the men who I run with. It's the men who know me, know the names of my girls, know my wife's name. It's brotherhood is directly connected with my ability to move past and fight past and reject passivity. So that's one piece. The other piece on like actually finding forward momentum is it actually has to be a heart. My heart has to be deeper connected versus my head saying I need to stop doing this and do more of this. And that connects with my story. It connects with baggage that I've carried in the past. It connects with seeing a counselor. It connects with freedom from the desire to numb out or just like go to vices. Like it truly, you can't just, and when I said intentionality, if I just set out to be a more intentional dad, it just, I end up falling on my face is what it comes down to. I need actually some healing, some deeper like freedom. And then I need some brothers to keep cheering me on and keep helping me move forward. So it's a complex, we actually stopped saying a word intentional fatherhood ministry because it fits in a larger sphere of like God's heart for fatherhood is so much more than just be more intentional.
Yeah. With you moving, how was it rebuilding like brotherhood and community and stuff like that? Because I can imagine it's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, really, I'll go to the RV life. First 2.5 years of living in an RV, traveling the country. My wife and I knew this is not a long term. We can't in a healthy way. We both need plantedness. We need community, and we had the joy of living for 11 weeks to scout out the land here in Northeast Florida before we moved here. So we already knew. Oh, there's some not immediate because there's never microwave brotherhood. It's always long build and frustration and disappointment and more long building. So it's deeper excavation work versus just like tacking up the treehouse with some 2x4s. The way I build it is I create opportunities to see kind of who equal passion, the like-hearted. So we're doing beach workouts with sandbags at 5:55 in the morning. We're not quite as hardcore as Jeff Ford here doing like 5 a.m. I need the extra hour. But so I create moments of like, let's do this 7-week sprint through this book. Let's create this sandbag on the beach before sunrise workouts. I helped our church launch small groups. The little church we joined here didn't have small group ministry. I jumped in and started serving in the kids ministry. So basically all of the things I can say yes to or groups I can help form. My wife and I just knew we have to put ourselves out and have to be the spark versus hope somebody invites us into their group and then do another lap of the same thing and another lap. And so we're 1.5 years in. We're so grateful for the friends God's pulled into our life. I should add though, I'm using tools like Marco Polo video messaging app and Slack with different leadership teams around the country to be connected with brothers in Dallas, Texas, in Lincoln, Nebraska, in the Twin Cities, in San Francisco. So I have, there's an anchor that is still strong, but man, the physical, who's helping my family move, unload the pod, like there's without local. Yeah, I'm in trouble. I need local.
Yeah, you need
but
the
it
people
takes
that
time.
see you in the day to day, and you can't hide from if you don't answer the phone.
Yes.
How do you speak to the guys? Because there's a personality thing to that. I feel like like you're a go getter, entrepreneurial. So typically the type to then say, you know what, if the group doesn't exist, I'll create it. Which like there's those like I've done the same. Jeff's done it. So, and sometimes it's hard to then speak that into guys that they're just not, that's not them. They'll join a group and be your best executor and the guy that shows up every day. But would you say to that person, hey, this isn't a personality thing, it's a need. So regardless, you need to create that? Or how do you usually talk to guys, like what would you advise them?
Yeah. I mean, the Tom Petty lyric about, I won't back down. Like this is so valuable to my 4 little girls and my wife that I'm not going to back down. It doesn't mean that every dad is the guy who's going to champion a book study around this book by John Tyson in a coffee shop. Or the workout club. Right. The being the spark and the creator and the entrepreneurial, like I'm going to take something from scratch. there are other ways which might mean the group feels like a 50% fit, but I'm gonna not back down. I'm gonna hold on to that lyric from Tom Petty and say, no, I'm not gonna back down. I'm gonna go to it even though it's a 50% fit. I'm gonna go help that person move because I heard through my wife that somebody's moving, even though I don't know that person very well. I'd be a service, using serving to help. I'm going to go to the soccer game, and when I cheer, I'm going to just try to meet and introduce myself to one person on the sideline this time. So there's small steps that are still, I'm building. I am a builder. I'm not waiting for some package to arrive from IKEA and set itself up. I'm going to actually be a builder when it comes to friendships and community.
Okay. That's really good. So here's what's fascinating for me, Jeff, because I am so in your camp. This is why we get along, because we're like two peas, two Jeffs in the same pod. You are making a connection that I don't think most men make, which is a connection between, because we're talking about, I'm asking you, how do you overcome passivity in parenting? And you're saying that is directly tied to my connection with brothers. Like, I don't think most people, the parenting experts aren't talking about that. They're going to talk about, your communication skills and maybe your time management and maybe your empathy skills and all. They're going to talk about a lot of other things. You're talking about brotherhood. How did you figure that out? How did you make that connection? Because I think it's fascinating.
You see, I've never grown alone. So everything I've ever done that required growth, I made sure to do it with others. And what I found is most people, the areas that I want to grow in, most people are like, yeah, me too. There's a lot of people that are like, oh, me too. But someone has to go first. And if everyone, so I use the visual of a rope bridge, like over a gorge, and you walk up and you find this rope bridge on a hike, and someone at some point in history walked up to that and said, enough people have scaled down this gorge, made their way across, and scaled back up the other side. I wonder if I could actually pull together the resources, the manpower, and put up a rope bridge. Somebody had to be the one, right? There are so many men specifically who are just waiting for someone else and are just like, they're the pain to their families, to their own person, like to themselves. Like, there's a lot of, the resistance is huge to be the one who goes first, but also the resistance is huge to continue scaling down the gorge and climbing the other side. Like, build it. And people you've never met, you're like, there's people that are willing to go first, dads that are willing to say, you know what? I've never read a fatherhood book. I don't think I will if I try on my own. But if I invite two friends, doesn't even matter where they live. Hey, you want to do a group text and just text our way through this book? That's an introvert thing. Like, introverts can still invite a few guys, say, let's just text our way through the book and commit to a chapter a week, but text some takeaways. And now I've finished something I've never done before. I've never read a fatherhood book, and I've inspired two other people to do it as well because I just was willing to go first. So that's where I just always connect the fight against passivity to brotherhood. I know that I'm a passive person alone.
That's just so good. I love that. We talk about being a Patros as someone who's growing spiritually, who's putting their faith into action, but who is anchored in brotherhood. And so, like, it's just so amazing how you've got two people who never met each other, but are around dudes and around dads going, man, I'm seeing this need to connect. And so you're talking about, activating them. We're talking about mobilizing them. And I think you're right. Men are looking, like, we're all looking for leadership in some capacity. In some areas, I'm looking for it. But then there are the areas where I need to give it. And so, that's kind of what you're talking about there, is that there are dudes who need to step up and go, I need to give this. It's funny because people say, oh, you like to talk. Well, I guess that kind of is true. I mean, I don't like to, everybody on this podcast right now likes to talk. If you start a podcast, you like to talk. But what's interesting is I don't love getting in front of people and talking. That's not something that comes easy to me. I don't need to be a fool in front of a whole bunch of people and say the wrong thing or whatever. But I know that my team at Man Up needs it. Or I know that, this church group has asked me to do it, and so I'm going to go do it. I know that with my kids, when we have a family meeting every single night, do I want to have a family meeting every single night? Nope. But I know that every night I need to gear myself up, right, with intentionality and go, listen, kids, All right, let's do it. Go around high-low for the day, Asher.
Yeah.
What was going on?
Yeah.
And just make that a rhythm. I'm responsible to do it whether or not I'm an introvert, outrovert, whatever vert I am. I got to be intentional to do that, right?
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. And one thing to add on the passivity piece is just, for me, I have to zoom out, and understanding the bigger storyline, I think, is actually critical for building brotherhood and critical for fighting passivity. If you understand the bigger storyline, that this chapter of fatherhood, this chapter of my career, of marriage, there's chapters that are super overwhelming as standalone chapters. But when we pan out and we understand that, connect it with my great grandpa and my grandpa and my dad and my role and then this chapter of fatherhood, and then I start to think about my kids and grandkids and great grandkids. I use the investment. If we knew the compounding interest is 20% on this investment, we would all work hard to make that investment today if we knew it was a guaranteed 20%, right? And we know when we pan out that the investment in brotherhood, investment in fighting passivity, the micro decisions today, when we pan out, will be a massive gift of compounding interest to our kids and grandkids. We know they will, absolute known. But it's hard to remember that if you don't like some posture or some method to pan out from our current challenges in the dad life, because there are many.
Yeah.
And you're really speaking to the fact that the stakes are high too. Like personality stops mattering when the stakes are high. So
yes,
people don't say, I'm not going to work because it's just not my personality type to work. Like the stakes are high, homelessness, I need food, or even my ego. Like the stakes are high when it comes to getting a job. Yet when it comes to fathering, we so often downplay the stakes and we upplay our personality types. And it's like in a fight, in a war, you don't worry about personality types. You worry about what needs to get done. And so everything that you're saying is like, yeah, we are at war. We're at war with the flesh. We're at war with, the enemy trying to go after our kids. So to your point, 100%, like we can't like lean towards passivity just because of whatever reasons that we come up with.
So powerful. In Deuteronomy 30:19, I've set before you life or death, blessings or curses. Choose life so that you and your children may live. You and your descendants may live. So the choice of choosing life as a dad, of pressing in, is the promise forward. They get to benefit.
That's so good. I would love to know, based on your experience and talking with dads, your own life, reading the scriptures, just the wisdom of the Holy Spirit. Let's talk about a wife who is not on the same page, right? So how do we navigate a husband and a wife? The dad is trying to invite, more intentionality, less passivity, but his wife is either over the top, like out of control, like controlling everything, which, let's be honest, women sometimes can tend to want to control everything and make sure everything is in its order, but sometimes they are maybe more passive. And so how do you navigate that when you're not on the same page in parenting with your spouse?
I mean, the two things that jump into my heart is a quote from a mentor of mine and a multiple guest in the podcast, Danny Silk, says, if you want, now I tee up the quote and then I'm like, basically the essence of it is, for the control freak that wants to, this is for us, not for our wives. Okay. Control your freaking self is what he says. Yeah, he's like, basically he's like, we can take complete ownership of ourselves. So this is where it starts. I know I need to hear this. Can fully control myself and not try to force a change with my favorite person in the world, my wife. Okay. So it starts there, control. And I get to own, spending time with my Heavenly Father, hearing and asking him to move in the heart of my wife, seeking him for wisdom with how to approach. So there's a bunch of other steps before trying to jump to a tactic to change or to course correct. So not that you're like hesitant to enter into conversations, not that at all. But I think if there's a realization that you're not on the same page, it's to enter prayerfully and to enter owning your own area as much as possible first. Then of course there's what does it look like for any kind of a rhythm of, for us, it's connecting. Is there a campfire rhythm of sitting down? Is there a rhythm of walking together? Like for me, it's hard to just like at the end of the night, just stand in the kitchen and look eye to eye and just have this conversation about let's recalibrate our approach to taking action, or let's work on a plan to get me less passive, or let's move towards us both taking ground with shared vision. One just practical thing that we've come up with recently is to go way out into the future. So we wrote a 30-year vision for our family.
Wow.
And it's oh my goodness, it might change, but we have written down a 30-year vision. So when my oldest daughter's 41, that's our 30-year vision. And I don't think anyone can say how did parenting go until we have kids in their 40s. I think at that point we know how did it go. So having long-term vision, I think long-term vision, unified, and then secondly, gratitude, documented, unified. So we have together written down since January 1 of this year, we have 3 full pages of notes of this is what God did in our family, in our life. Look at the goodness of God. And so if you anchor any of those conversations or adjustments or calibrations as a marriage with a ton of gratitude, specific gratitude, look what God's done, honor him in that way. And then long-term vision. Those are 2 ideas.
Well, let's just talk about that too, because gratitude is good for anybody at any time, at any place. Like, so for guys looking for practical tips on like overcoming passivity, having a grateful heart of where you've been is always going to lead to like, I guess, a positive conversation for the future, a positive outlook on the future, which is parlayed into a 30-year future. I was on a council where we were trying to figure out what do we need to do in the Tampa Bay area to see, essentially fatherlessness eradicated. And there's a whole bunch of ministries at the table. And the prompt was, what do we need to do now that in 500 years from now looks like this? And so when you talk about a long vision, it's like, on the one hand, you're like, well, who freaking cares about, 500 years from now? But the reality is it's the patriarchal, like I'm passing on my wisdom to the next generation. And that compounded over time, like you were talking about earlier, is going to make that. So I love like that vision. And then I think you said something. The first thing you said, this is genius. And I hope guys will pick up on this point. If you're not sure how to overcome passivity and you're trying your best, because there was very much a time in our marriage where this was the case and I didn't know what to do. And I was at my wit's end because every 3 months we'd have a talk. She would agree, nothing would change. And I'm just dying inside because I'm trying to lead and I feel like nobody's following. And God was, very clearly told me at one point, you just need to pray and don't look at it as a just as. It's actually the most important thing that you can do. And as soon as I started to realize that through this thick skull of mine, it took the pressure off. And so I controlled what I could control, which meant loving my wife, praying for her, and then doing whatever I knew to do. And if there was disagreement, it's like, you know what? It's all right. God, you got it. I'm not going to go down that road. So I just love what you said.
And if a husband listening has never washed his wife's feet, if you've never done that, big bowl, warm soapy water, towel. Very simple setup here. Yeah. And then pray over your wife. Just wash her feet and pray over her. If you've never done that, truly, I promise you, the softness, the unity, it's a guarantee. Now, of course, be wise and be prayerful about don't force it because you're hoping something else is going to happen. Don't do that. So yes, wash your wife's feet and your kids too. If you're a dad, like we've done at the kindergarten, going into kindergarten moment, a prayer and washing. I've got a chance to wash my daughter's feet. So this is an idea.
Man, that's just so good. I want to shift a little bit and talk about just this idea of focused attention, because we have so many distractions. There are constant interruptions, whether it's, gadgets in our hands or, distractions from work. Everybody's at work at home. Everything is digital. Focused attention for kids is such a hard thing. Let's dive into that just a little bit here. How do you keep your kids grounded and making sure that, because ministry never ends. Like when you're in ministry, it's literally all the time, because you could be just filling up for gas on your way home or way to work. And all of a sudden God tells you, go talk to that person over there. They need an encouraging word. And you're like, really? So ministry never ends. How do we keep from, not giving our kids the attention that they need?
Yeah, this is an easy one for me to jump in with a whole bunch of ideas and things I've done. But then I get out of the rhythm and stop doing it, right? Like, so this is not a look what this tall guy who leads a ministry called Dad Awesome is doing. Like, truly, these are ideas meant to Holy Spirit give one little nudge. And it might not even be something I share, because I stumble at this and I check my screen time report on my phone and I'm like devastated with how much time I spend on this device. So a couple hundred years ago, or even 70 years ago, the only things that were glowing that would capture our attention, our eyes, were the moon, the stars, the sunrise, the sunset, luminescence, fireflies. What else? A fire and a candle, right? There's not that many glowing things that caused us to just stare at them because of their beauty. And now we spend 7 hours staring at a glowing thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a real struggle for us, and it's a new struggle. I mean, I've been encouraged my whole dad life to date my daughters, date your daughters. So yeah, when you're on a one-on-one, it's hard you're foolish if you look at your phone. If you're on a one-on-one date, you're foolish at that point. But there's places one of the houses we rented over in Florida before we bought our house had a hot tub. I mean, the hot tub is a great, now that we don't have one right now. The bike rides. You can't look at your phone with one hand while you're biking. You don't do that. We went for a run last night. I ran, my daughter biked. I mean, there's no screen interruption. We're working out together. So these are just tea parties. Like tea parties, you're not going to hold a phone up during a tea party with your kids, right? So how do you create these moments, these places? The distractions are less. That's one idea. The other, I mean, we have the RO box, a box that's a docking box, a place where phones belong. Now we struggle. It charges your phone as well. So half the time I put it there to charge, not because I'm getting it out of my reach, right? So I mean, we use our phones for music. So it's like often, or photos, like there's often excuses to go grab that device again, which is another excuse for distraction. Presence and focused eye contact. Chess, we've been playing chess. That's been helpful. Wrestling is a great, like, these are all things that get us together. I'm in charge of bedtime. So bedtime is my domain, even though I have daughters. Brushing teeth, jammies, the whole deal, the story time, multiple series books with so many more books that just keep going, these chapter books. So I own bedtime, and that is a precious time. That's true connection moment with my girls. The last just quick idea for you, this is a rapid fire, is a candle. Light a candle. And I do this, with my daughters individually, and the other ones are listening. I take one at a time in my lap or at this big beanbag, light a candle. They light it. They get to light it. And then I just speak blessings over them with the candlelight. And then they blow out the candle. It's like a minute. And I have used AI to help generate Bible-based blessings for a 9-year-old, or so I've totally use a technology to help me with these blessing statements, and they're different every time. But the candle moment, one-on-one, shiny eyes with each girl, get a turn to light the candle. I pray blessings over them. Light the candle. If we try to do it at dinner, there's just too much chaos. Like a bedtime moment, the candle moment works. And so those are some ideas. I'm struggling, guys, with you. But we're waiting we're waiting a long time for a cell phone for our girls. We're going to try like crazy solutions with walkie-talkies as long as we can, to not do cell phones. So we're trying to figure this stuff out.
That's a great conversation topic. I want to double down on that in just a second. I want to ask Allan. Allan, you hear Jeff talking about that list. How many of those do you do? I'm just curious. How many of those do dudes do? Like, I'm just curious how many guys are intentional enough to do those things that you just heard. And I'll give you a list that I wrote down here. Date your daughters, hanging out in the hot tub, bike rides, running, working out, tea parties. eye contact, games, wrestling, bedtime being dad's domain, and then this idea of speaking a blessing over your kids, lighting a candle. Like, what resonates with you? Are you doing that stuff, or
Yeah, we don't do the hot tub, but
You know if you had a hot tub?
maybe. But yeah, so we do for bedtime. My wife and I take turns, just depending on the night, but often we try to do it together if we can. We have a newborn. Oh, he's 6 months now, so every now and then, like, I'll take him, let her do bedtime, or we'll switch. When like last night, I did bedtime, and they were supposed to be down, and I just spent 40 minutes telling them stories about when they were babies, and because we fostered them before adopting, and so we just talked about, like, when you guys came in the home, this is what you used to do in your crib, and just talking about stuff like that. My wife implemented something that I've been able to, like, partake in now, which has been awesome, is like, Daddy, what do you love about me? So then they ask that question, and then and then we reverse the question and say, what do you love about us? And so we share those moments of, like, what do we love? Obviously we always read a story, and then we sing one verse of, like, five. They always expect 5 different Christian songs. So we just try to keep it to one verse per song. And then just trying to find moments. I want to do the candle thing. That's really cool. And then dating, we're not intentional enough about, like, maybe once a week. We have twin toddlers, so they're kind of always like the dynamic duo with everything. So every now and then, maybe like once every 2 weeks, we'll split them up. And then, my wife took my son out on, like, a date with her and the 2 boys, because she needs the baby with her. And me and my daughter both have FOMO. We're the extroverts, so we just went and did our own date. But yeah, I do a lot of it, and I feel like a decent amount of the guys that I know, I think my generation is fathering a lot more than prior generation.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and probably part of that is because there's ministries like Dad Awesome and others who are like,
and we're watching all the content, we're listening to all the content. Yeah, we're eating it up, and just, like, that makes sense. Now, to be honest, sometimes I feel like enough is never going to be enough.
Yeah.
Because the other generations kind of had this understanding, like, hey, I'm working 60 hours a week, I can't do all that stuff too. And I think my generation is like, me too. And also, I don't feel like it's enough.
The visual of the bucket, though, the leaking bucket, like vision leaks, right? The leader is going to keep pouring vision in to their teams, right? Don't, like, it won't ever be enough. The bucket never is full, and you have to stop bailing more water into it. But the leaky bucket of, like, being an intentional dad who's pursuing these little hearts, just keep pouring. And so I think, the culture can keep saying more and more and more. Look at on Instagram what all these other dads are doing. Just keep pouring it in. Yeah, that's good.
Jeff, I'm curious to know, like, the intentionality piece again. It's like, I hate using it because it's overused, but it's so important.
Yeah.
How do you keep track of this? Like, just very practically, I'm trying to give practical things here as you give all those practical things, but do you use a calendar? Do you have a master calendar? Is it on your phone? Do you put, like, a big calendar up at the house? Like, how do you organize those kind of ways to say, you know what, I'm going to make sure that I give focused attention to my family and to my kids, and this is how I organize it? Do you use anything, or what are your tips?
Yeah, I mean, when I had 2 daughters and was pastoring up in Minnesota, it was just pretty consistent. There was a day of the week that each girl knew they were going to get some one-on-one time with Dad, and it was on the calendar. Things got massively disrupted living in an RV, tons of time together, but less, one-on-one. So my wife and I have to calibrate. We usually have 2 months on the wall, our whiteboard calendar, and the plan is that those dates go on there. About half the time they end up being the day before. I'm like, hey, I've got a gap. I'm going to take my second oldest to do this. Or last night was perfect. The other 3 had dance rehearsal. My oldest is home. Like, let's go. Let's do this together. The bike ride run. So it's like, there's never I've arrived, because every chapter there's a new commitment and you recalibrate. So I don't have, it's not a clear one stop Evernote list. It's not now the campfire gatherings that I host here, we ask these questions. How's that going? What are some new ideas? So having some anchor brotherhood to ask, how's it going? What are you learning? What are some new ideas? Let's borrow from each other ideas. And to know you're going to be asked, how's intentionality going? How's your calendar? Show me your time. Show me your treasure. That's what matters, right? That's what matters. That clearly that's what you value. So
yeah. I love that you said you never arrived, because I think it's easy to, like, we hear a podcast like this and we hear what good dads are doing, and every dad on this podcast I know is trying to be a dad awesome, but then you do fail, you do falter. You have seasons where you're busier than others. You have seasons where sometimes, for me, I travel, and so I'm out of town more, right? And so then it's just the way of the enemy to get down, and then you hear what other people are doing, and you can get into that comparison game. Mm-hmm. So I really appreciate that you said, hey, you've never arrived, and it's never too late to start, and it's never too late to amend. And like you look for opportunities. I thought, like, when you're talking, that's what I was thinking. It's like, hey, I got a window, let's do this. I did that the other day with my daughter, because I realized we had gone and climbed Kilimanjaro, and then we had a big fundraising event, and I realized we have a date, big date every month, where I take her out. It's like a special day. It'd been 2 months. I hadn't done it. And I was like, man, I don't have anything for May scheduled. And we didn't do anything in March and April. And I was like, all this guilt. And I'm like, wait a second. Asher's at, whatever tonight. Mom's going to be with him. I'm like, just what Allan said. I'm like, let's go. So we had a Culver's night.
And sometimes budget, I mean, we go to the gas station and buy Tic Tacs. I mean, that truly, budget does not have to be intense. You pack a fizzy drink with a little lunchbox. I mean, that's what we're talking here.
Yeah. And you're good to go. Yep. Yeah. Well, Jeff, we've got just a couple minutes left, and I want to make sure I touch on this, because this is just an interesting. It's where we're at now in the universe. AI, you mentioned it earlier a little bit, so I think I might know your answer. But AI, friend or foe when it comes to parenting?
Yeah, I mean, if I was uber wealthy and I had someone managing my estate for me, or someone doing this or that, and a staff that worked for me, right? I would leverage their expertise to help me be a great dad. I'm already paying them. I own a business. They work for me. Hey, pull in here. Let's talk and whiteboard out my dad's strategy. I would do that if I had a staff, and I could leverage it for my own personal, which I could if I own the business, right? I don't have a staff right now, and I'm not uber wealthy, but I have this assistant. I use Claude instead of ChatGPT. Sometimes I use both. Claude, though, for $20 a month, the amount that I use it for fatherhood is crazy. Like it is the same thing as pulling a whole team of experts together to help me whiteboard out a plan for this birthday party. Cause I want succinct 8-year-old rhyming clues that lead to 6 destinations in my yard. I can sit right here and have within 3 minutes perfectly clues for the scavenger hunt, or the other night while they're brushing teeth, I asked Claude, my girls, and I don't do it that much in front of my girls, but sometimes I asked for, hey, give me 10 breath prayers based on scripture for a 6-year-old. We're going to breathe in praying this, breathe out praying this, promises from God's word. And then we did breath prayers together. We did breath prayers before bedtime. Blessings. Oh my goodness. Like the amount of like promises that are true from scripture over my girls around topics of friendships, because we're praying for friends for our girls. And I'm just like speaking out blessings and promises. And I copy and paste them into an Excel, a Google sheet. So I just have them, right? Like, so we certainly use a date. I did it for my wife. She was going on a one-on-one date with mom-daughter date. And she's like, hey, can you pull 20 questions for me? And she didn't say 20, she just said some questions. And I gave her like topical 2-page printout of questions, and then a list of questions for our daughter to ask her. And it transformed their one-on-one, their 45-minute mommy-daughter having that resource of questions to ask this age kid with these topics in mind. Card time, you can transform your road time, card time, because you can have a piece of paper printed that you pull out. Don't do it from your phone, and just like quick glance at it at stoplights. I'm like, oh, here's some more questions, car questions. So like you can make it hilarious. Oh, truly. Yeah. Guys, I tell pirate dog stories to my girls for 3 or 4 years. Pirate dogs, the adventures of pirate dogs and secret agent sisters, right? And I record the 7-minute story. I've recorded a few of them, and I had it build out character development, help me with names for the villain, and then I had it do an allegory of the story of David and Goliath in a pirate dog. And truly, like, the amount of creativity that can be engineered with AI into the dad life. I just like, go after it, guys. Go after it.
So that's a yes then to AI.
It sounds like you're saying AI responsibly.
Responsibly. Agreed.
Well, and what I'm hearing there, Jeff, is guys, you don't have to think of it on yourself. I love the analogy of I got the expertise of the entire world. Why not use that expertise to help me? And then you pigeonhole it for what you're trying to do. My daughter is 6 years old. I got a birthday party here. Like, how can I do? Boom. And then like utilize it. It is your friend. It can be your enemy, but it's like anything. Like, technology is not immoral. It's not. It's amoral. It's how we use it, right? So what I'm hearing is, dads, don't be afraid. Use it to your good.
Yeah, I mean, truly today, if this is on YouTube or like, you can get the transcript for free now. The transcripts are just grab it, copy, paste into AI, say, give me 5 discussion questions, and then grab coffee with some other dads. They can literally listen to this episode, watch it, and it will give you discussion questions. Like, it's crazy the amount it can be leveraged into fatherhood.
For this demographic and for this.
That's it.
Well, listen, Jeff, man, dad, awesome. Real quickly, how if they want to connect with you, how do they do it?
Yeah, dadawesome.org. Our website has it has the activation events, has the podcast, has the YouTube channel, all that stuff. I'm taking a longer pause off social media personally, but at Dad Awesome is our ministry Instagram if they want to catch us there. And yeah, truly happy to whatever we can do to cheer you guys out. We got the collection of 400 episodes of Dad Awesome. That book is dropping this fall of like written for dads, short story-based practical wisdom for dads. So that's coming out this fall. And just glad to do whatever we can to serve your audience.
Well, I will tell you this. You heard it here first, folks. Jeff doesn't even know this, but Man Up and Dad Awesome are going to do an adventure something. I don't know what it's going to look like. We're going to join forces, though. We're going to conquer the month of June. Maybe it's this June, maybe it's next June, but we're going to do something together where it's like we're activating and mobilizing men to fight for the fatherless and lead with wonder. I love you, brother, and thanks for coming on the show. Really, really happy to have you on.
Thanks, guys. Cheering for you.
And thank you for everybody that joined us on this episode of the Patros Podcast. See you guys next time.